Can I say something about Marinol?
Yeah.
All right.
Say something.
Deputy, you're the fourth again, but quick.
Okay, quick. I debated the former Colliers County Sheriff, I forget his name today, real nice guy. Don Hunter. Don Hunter told us today that there's a pill called Marinol, and it's prescribed. You know, people are prescribed Marinol. These aren't my numbers. You go get the tape from Wink today. You know what Don Hunter said? That there's 241 prescriptions in Collier County. You know why there's no prescriptions? It doesn't work. Marinol doesn't work. These are not my numbers. These are Don Hunter's numbers. They don't work. Go look and see how much Percocet, Darvocet, OxyContin, and morphine have been prescribed. One thing the pharmaceutical companies know is that marijuana works. It just doesn't work in pill form, and if it did, they'd be selling like hotcakes.
I'm glad that Mr. Morgan actually brings that up, because the pharmaceutical companies have actually been working on not pill form here in the state of Florida and in Chicago, which is Epidiolex. It's not the Charlotte's Web strain. It's Epidiolex, which is a cannabis-based medication, and we do have Sativex, which is an oral spray, so it's not the pill form. Funny how that happens. I can tell you that the reason why the numbers are going down is because people are understanding the difference between a constitutional amendment and a bill. They understand that their language here is more loosely and broadly written than any other state that has medical marijuana laws. That's why the numbers are going down. People know the truth, and they know that statute is on the books that exists here that allows people to use marijuana as medicine, as well as a Senate bill that just came through 2014.
Next question. Why is there no civil, actually it says, what does it mean when Amendment 2 says there is no civil or criminal liability for doctors, patients, caregivers, or medical marijuana treatment centers?
Well, it's very, listen, that's something they want to talk about. They're like, oh my God, John, you've given immunity to doctors. You know, me, of all people, giving immunity to doctors. It's very, and this doctor was complaining about it. If you want me to sue you, sir, I will. Be careful what you wish for, sir. Yeah, good. Because we know what that means. But listen, it's very limited. It's very limited. Be careful, sir. If you want to make noises, leave. It's very limited to the simple prescription or writing the permission to use it. It's very limited. If you start doing crooked stuff with marijuana, if you turn into a pill mill, this sheriff is going to come down and lock you up as fast as he can. What I didn't want to do is to say, listen, I'm going to have a doctor, because listen, there's federal laws too. So this is so limited, and it's only for the actual prescription. But if you start doing something,
Prescription.
I'm saying prescription, so.
I know you are.
I'm from Kentucky. I'm not as smart as all these people over here.
That's for sure.
But listen, the immunity is very limited for writing the permission, the prescription, whatever you want to call it. It is not going to stop the prosecution of pill mills. But I will tell you this. You ask yourself this question. If there's going to be a pill mill or a pot mill, which one do you want?
Neither.
Because the pot mills don't kill people, the pill mills do.
Not so.
So the question is about civil and criminal immunity, and it's very interesting because it's the only industry that any of us have ever seen that have civil and criminal immunity for everyone involved. Everyone involved. And you've already heard Mr. Morgan admit that there's going to be pot mills. So we're going to see those everywhere, and we're going to see issues with that.
Yes.
Please be respectful.
There will only be pot mills if the sheriff allows them.
Sir?
It's disintegrated at this point, Mary.
Next question. This might be the last question. Isn't Amendment 2 really about money and politics, not people and compassion? There's $4 million given by each side, one Democrat, one Republican. The governor's race is neck and neck. Isn't this really about money and politics, not people and compassion?
This is for me. There's actually not one penny in this for me. Not one. If this doesn't happen, what do you got, Tom? You're right. There's not one penny in this for me. There's a lot of pennies in it for these guys. This doctor gets to keep on doing injections. When you present with pain, I'm in pain, give me a shot. Happens all the time. This lady gets to keep storming the state, fighting and railing against this. If this doesn't happen, my life doesn't change a minute. Not a minute. I'm not going to be in the marijuana business. I don't know anything about it. I can't even grow philodendrons. My life is exactly the same tomorrow if this doesn't pass. If my brother gets hurt, if my brother can't handle it, I'll do what I did 2 weeks ago. I'll put him in my jet, and we'll go to the Cleveland Clinic. I can do that. Other people can't. Other people can't. If this doesn't pass, nothing changes for me. Not one thing. But for 300,000 to 400,000 people, they have to break the law, or the sheriff will arrest them. And so look, at the end of the day, you just got to ask yourself the question. What is the good in this, and what is the bad? It becomes a balancing test. What is the good? What is the bad? Who are we? What are we? And if it fails, who benefits the most? The pharmaceutical industry. And who loses the most? The Kathy George of the world, my brother, and millions like them, forever and ever and ever. If you trust the Florida legislature to do the right thing, vote no. If you don't, vote yes.
The question was if this was about politics and money, I believe, and I'm not a political operative, although Mr. Morgan seems to think I'm barnstorming the state after this is over, and I'm not. I go back to my job. I left my job. It was 17 years I've been working in the substance abuse prevention and intervention and education field, so I go back to my job as well. What happens in this state, and it hasn't been addressed and it keeps being ignored, is that we already have medical marijuana here. It was already recognized by the federal government in the Rohrabacher-Farr Amendment. We already have it here. This is not about politics for me. I've never really been into politics. This has been a very interesting ride. I understand there has been a lot of money poured in on both sides. I didn't even recognize that one was a Republican. I know the other one is definitely a Democrat. Has nothing to do with this for me. This has to do with protecting our state, protecting our communities, and protecting our children, because Amendment 2 did not do that. And it's a constitutional amendment, and a yes is for forever, a no is for not right now, and by the way, we have medical marijuana here in Florida. It's legal.
Last question. Why should voters be the ones making medical decisions and decide what is medical and what is not? Shouldn't that be left up to doctors?
Well, that's exactly what it's going to do. The one thing we learned, there's 23 states where this has happened, and it did. And guess what? The union didn't collapse. The world's still standing. Oxy deaths are down. Violent crime is down in all those states. Nothing happened. Here's the deal. What we learned in these other 23 states is what we don't want. We learned in California, you don't have to be a medical doctor to recommend marijuana. Here you do. You have to be a medical doctor. If you don't trust doctors, as a general rule, look, there's going to be a few people that do bad things. They just are. But the people who are going to be making this decision are your doctors. When I go to my doctor, when you go to your doctor, I bet we all like them and we trust them. The person that's going to be making the decisions on this are your doctors. Who right now, if you went to your doctor right now and he said, listen, we need to rush you to the hospital immediately because you're in a life-threatening situation. You know what you do? You lay down on the stretcher and you'd be wheeled out. And you go. And you know why you go? You trust her. If you don't trust them, vote no. If you do trust them, vote yes.
I think the issue here is that this medical decision has gone to the people with this amendment. You know, we as doctors in the medical community, we listen. The Florida Medical Association came out against Amendment 2, and so Lee County Medical Society. And the reason is because we're interested in protecting the population. Marijuana has some beneficial properties, but you know, we have drugs that go through the FDA. The FDA sponsors, the FDA looks at all the information and weighs it, and they make sure the studies are appropriate, and they make sure that it's safe. Medicines are given in specific pill form or can be spray form, metered dosage, certain amount, certain time of day for a certain duration, okay? When you get your recommendation, it's you go use it. It doesn't say how to use it, how much to use. So the issue is, there's a reason the FDA is there to protect people. And I'm sure people point out the FDA has made mistakes. I mean, there have been laws and amendments that have been forwarded, which are mistakes as well, which have been rescinded. So the issue is, we need to be very careful about how we go ahead and move with medications. And no, it's not appropriate for the citizens to determine whether marijuana is an appropriate medicine to be used.
Exactly.
And as far as I'm concerned, if you want to force an amendment, why don't you take an amendment to the United States government, and why don't you ask them to take marijuana from a Schedule I and make it a Schedule II? Now that might be appropriate for you to do, because then we could be studied and then we would all have answers. And I think that's a better reason for an amendment.
Let's do it.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.